There's your seat, Dad said, tapping a wobbling card that read kids' table in loopy gold ink. Don't make it awkward. Your married siblings belong with the adults. The room laughed softly, like clinking ice. My chest went hollow. The chandelier hummed. I swallowed air that tasted like lemon polish and old pride. My younger brother draped his arm around his new wife and smirked. My sister adjusted her ring, flashing light like a blade. I felt 12 again, shrunk into a chair that pinched my knees, a plastic cup instead of crystal, paper napkins instead of linen. Everyone, my name is Rowan Hale, I'm 29. I don't raise my voice, I raise stakes. And this is the night a place card taught me exactly where I stood in my own family. The special celebration was Dad's idea. Private dining room, a 50-year toast, strings of white roses looping along the long, adult table like a fence. The hostess led me toward the corner where balloons bobbed, primary colors, a little crooked. A tiny pitcher of apple juice. Stickers. Someone had stuck a dinosaur to my place card, a joke that wasn't funny. I heard an aunt whisper, well, she's not settled. It's appropriate. Appropriate, like I was a late homework assignment. I watched chairs pull in at the long table, paired lives, neat and clinking. My chair wobbled. The tablecloth didn't reach the floor. The kids' table centerpiece was a bowl of jelly beans. Rowan, Dad added with a patient smile meant for waiters, don't make this into something. Be graceful. Be graceful. The words pressed into me like a thumb bruise. My breath went small and precise. I felt the pulse in my fingers, saw the tremor in a spoon. A violinist outside the door slid through a high note that didn't end, it just thinned into the ceiling. I set my clutch on the tiny chair. I smoothed the cheap paper napkin. And then I stood. No act, no scene. Just my spine deciding, quiet, clean. Where are you going? My sister called, amused. Being graceful, I said. I picked up my coat. The room turned glossy with silence. Dad's smile stiffened like icing on a cake that's been left out too long. At the door, the restaurant manager, freckled, steady, stepped close and kept his voice low. Ms. Hale, quick question, he murmured. Do you still want the master bill kept under your card, or should I cancel the authorization and release the room? Every fork in the room froze mid-air. The chandelier hummed louder. I didn't look back. I looked at the pen clipped to the receipt folder in his hand, my name printed on the top line, the one no one ever sees. Let's talk outside, I whispered, and the door swung shut behind me like a curtain dropping on Act 1. The night air was colder than it should have been for mid-May. I stood outside the restaurant, the sound of crystal laughter muffled behind glass. The manager waited near the valet podium, his tablet glowing blue. You're the pair on record, he said softly. The total's just under $2,800, pre-tip. I let the number hang there, same way my family always let their expectations hang over me. They never asked, they assumed. That I'd cover the bill because I was good with money. That I'd show up because I was the reliable one. That I'd stay small so they could stay comfortable. Cancel authorization, I said. And please split it evenly between the other 6 names on the reservation. He hesitated. Are you sure? I smiled, a small, practiced thing. Completely. The streetlights trembled against parked cars. I could almost feel the ripple inside when the bill hit the main table, 6 phones lighting up in sequence. My sister's laugh cutting short. My father's voice dropping an octave. I walked toward the lot, heels tapping a rhythm my heartbeat learned to follow. Then my phone buzzed. Dad, what the hell is this? Mom, you embarrassed us. Brother, you've changed. No one said we're sorry. I slid the phone into my bag, breathing out a fog of everything I'd swallowed at that table. Years of quiet ridicule, kids' table jokes, whispered pity about being unmarried, self-sufficient. They measured my worth in rings and partners. I measured theirs in silence. As I reached my car, I caught my reflection in the tinted window, lipstick perfect, eyes steady. For once, I didn't look like the family disappointment. I looked like someone rewriting the script. In the distance, the restaurant doors opened. Dad stepped out, scanning the street. His jacket gleamed under the streetlight. Rowan, he called. This is childish. I turned, smiling faintly. You're right, I said under my breath. But it's a start. He didn't hear me. But the valet did. And when he nodded, just once, it felt like the first real applause of my life. Inside, the family celebration began to unravel. The next morning, the family group chat was on fire. 52 unread messages. Dad's first text had been "call me now." The last was just a period, his digital version of slamming a door. I stared at my phone while stirring my coffee, the cream forming thin, pale swirls. The sunlight outside my apartment window was merciless, too honest for the kind of people who pretended everything was fine. I opened one message from my sister, the golden child. "You embarrassed Dad in front of everyone. He's still paying for your health insurance, at least show gratitude." Health insurance. The card I hadn't used since switching jobs 6 months ago. They never noticed I'd stopped needing them. They liked me dependent. It made their pity feel justified. I typed back, "already covered." And so was dinner. Then I muted the chat. 4 years, I'd been their cushion, the emergency fund, the unpaid assistant, the quiet fixer who booked venues, handled RSVPs, and settled oversights with my card. They called it family duty. I called it emotional debt. But that morning, as the emails from my own clients stacked up, invoices, proposals, real deadlines, I realized something. My world had grown while theirs had frozen around appearances. The phone rang again. "Dad." I let it buzz out. Then again. Then again. Finally, I answered, just to end the loop. His voice cracked like dry paper. "You humiliated me. In front of my colleagues." "You humiliated me, Dad," I said quietly. "In front of my siblings. For existing differently." He paused. "Don't twist this into some feminist nonsense." The old tone, the one that said I decide what matters. "I'm not twisting anything," I said. "I'm just done straightening myself out to fit your table." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was breaking. He finally exhaled. "You always were dramatic, Rowan." "Maybe," I whispered. "But now I'm the one holding the pen." And before he could reply, I ended the call. Outside, a gust of wind carried the scent of rain, sharp, cleansing. The kind that always comes before a storm. By noon, the story had spread through the family grapevine like spilled perfume, sweet, invasive, impossible to contain. Aunt May called pretending to check in, then slipped in her real question. "So, you really made everyone pay for their own dinner? Even your father?" "Especially my father," I said, sipping water instead of coffee now. "He's been serving pride on the menu for years." She sighed. "Honey, you could have just ignored it. Families are complicated." "No," I said softly. "Excuses are complicated. Families are simple. People either respect you or they don't." After hanging up, I sat on my apartment floor, surrounded by unfinished canvases. Painting had always been my escape. Lately, the colors felt like conversations I wasn't allowed to have, thick, messy, honest. I picked up a brush and dragged a streak of deep red across a half-finished portrait of a dinner table. It felt like setting something on fire. That night, Mom texted, "We're having another dinner. Just the family. Dad wants to talk things through." Attached was a photo of the same restaurant, same private room. The caption read, "Please don't make a scene this time." I almost laughed. The audacity of a family who ruins your peace and calls it a misunderstanding. But curiosity, that old ghost, whispered that maybe this was my chance to finally be heard. So I said yes. The next evening, I arrived 10 minutes early. The hostess smiled nervously, already briefed on the Hale situation. The long table was set again, this time without a kid's table. Progress? Or a trap? My father entered first, expression polished to public perfection. My mother followed, her pearls gleaming like apology. Then my siblings, hand in hand, whispering. "Rowan," Dad said, taking the seat across from me. "We all overreacted. But you made a mockery of something sacred." "Dinner?" I asked. "Family," he snapped. The violinist started again outside the door, the same haunting note from before. I leaned forward, voice steady. "Maybe it's not mockery," I said. "Maybe it's a mirror." His jaw tightened. "And what exactly are we supposed to be seeing?" I smiled faintly. "Ourselves. Without the masks." No one moved. The sound of the violin slipped through the door again, fragile, trembling, like even the music knew this conversation could break something sacred. My sister glanced down at her diamond bracelet. My brother picked at his cufflinks. Dad cleared his throat. Rowan, this behavior. It's beneath you. Walking out, canceling the bill, making a spectacle. I tilted my head. Interesting. When you humiliate me publicly, it's family humor. When I stand up quietly, it's a spectacle. Mom's voice came gentle, coated in guilt. You know your father didn't mean to hurt you, dear. He just wants to remind you where you belong. Where I belong, I repeated, almost to myself. At the kids' table. In silence. Paying the bill, smiling for the photos, pretending we're not fractured. Dad slammed his palm on the table. That's enough. The waiter froze mid-step. The chandelier's crystals shivered. I didn't flinch. You raised me to be strong, Dad. Then punished me when I used that strength. He leaned back, eyes hard. You mistake pride for principle. No, I said. You mistake obedience for love. The words seemed to hit him harder than I expected. For the first time, he looked older. Maybe even uncertain. Silence thickened between us, filled with unspoken years. Then my brother broke it. Rowan, just apologize. Dad's not changing. Why ruin dinner again? I turned to him slowly. You think I came here to ruin dinner? He shrugged. You always need drama. I smiled, calm. No. I came to return it. Before they could react, I reached into my bag and slid a single white envelope across the table. It was thick, sealed, official-looking. Dad's name written in perfect cursive. What's this? He asked. Something you left undone, I said. He frowned, tearing it open. As his eyes scanned the first line, his face drained of color. My siblings leaned closer, whispering. What did you do? Mom whispered, voice shaking. I leaned back, eyes steady. I didn't do anything, I said. I just corrected the paperwork on something that already belonged to me. The room went utterly still. Even the violin outside stopped mid-note. Dad's eyes darted from the letter to me, back to the letter. His mouth opened once, then shut again, as though words had to crawl through pride before they could reach daylight. This is the company, he finally said, his voice cracking. You transferred the shares, how? I folded my hands. Legally. You forgot that Mom's initial investment came from my account, not yours. The paperwork was sloppy. I just cleaned it up. My brother let out a short, nervous laugh. You're bluffing. Check the corporate registry, I said, my voice steady. It updated this morning. Dad's knuckles whitened around the envelope. You think stealing what your family built will make you happy? I stared at him, every word measured. No, Dad. But reclaiming what you used to control me might. Mom whispered, you wouldn't. I smiled faintly. You raised me, remember? You taught me to play by the rules, I just finally learned to read them. The waiter reappeared, unsure whether to refill glasses or flee. My father waved him off, muttering something that sounded like prayer and thunder tangled together. I stood. This isn't revenge, I said softly. It's balance. My sister scoffed. You always make yourself the victim. I met her eyes. No. I just stopped auditioning for your approval. I turned toward the door, but my father's voice caught me mid-step. You think walking away again solves anything? I paused, facing the reflection of us all in the glass door, him rigid, Mom small, my siblings silent. Maybe not, I said. But sometimes leaving is the only way to make people look at what they've broken. When I pushed open the door, cool air swept in like mercy. Behind me, the clatter of silverware finally started again, soft, uncertain. A family trying to chew through the taste of consequence. As I stepped outside, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer flashed across the screen. Transfer confirmed. You're officially majority shareholder. Congratulations. I exhaled, slow and trembling. For the first time, the word family didn't sound like a sentence. It sounded like freedom. That night, I drove without music. Just the sound of tires slicing through wet pavement, the faint hiss of rain beginning to fall. City lights shimmered across the windshield, soft and blurry, like memories refusing to fade clean. I parked by the pier, where I used to go after college when I felt invisible. The wind smelled like salt and storm. My reflection in the water looked older now, steadier, less eager to please. I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat again. Still muted. Still full of judgment. A new message blinked from Dad. "You've humiliated this family. You'll regret it." I typed slowly, "Maybe. But at least the regret will be mine this time." Then I hit send and deleted the entire thread. For years, they told me I was selfish for wanting space, dramatic for demanding respect, ungrateful for earning independence. But independence had been the only thing keeping me alive. It wasn't rebellion, it was survival disguised as self-control. Lightning flashed far out at sea, a brief streak of silver that made the horizon visible again. I thought of all the dinners, all the polite laughter, all the times I'd swallowed my own name to keep the peace. How peace, in that house, had meant silence. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mom. "Mom, he's devastated. Please come talk to him." Me, "He's not devastated, Mom. He's exposed." There was a pause. Then she wrote, "You were always his favorite, you know." I let that sit. Maybe it was true. Maybe it was her way of easing her own guilt. Either way, it didn't matter. Love that demands humiliation isn't love, it's leverage. I looked out at the water and whispered, "You taught me to be small, Dad. But the thing about shrinking for too long is that eventually, you forget how to fit back into anyone's box." The rain began, soft first, then steady. It drummed against my car roof like applause from a quiet universe. Somewhere between the thunder and my breath, I knew exactly what I had to do next, not to hurt him, but to free myself completely. The next morning, I woke to a sky the color of forgiveness, soft gray, washed clean. My apartment was silent except for the ticking clock and the hum of the coffee pot. I didn't check my phone. For once, the world could wait. I printed one document from my laptop, the official transfer papers for the company shares. Then I grabbed a pen, wrote something in blue ink at the bottom, and sealed it in an envelope. By noon, I stood in front of my parents' house. The driveway was littered with puddles. The roses Dad always trimmed were wilting. Through the front window, I saw him sitting at the table, the same table where he'd once told me success didn't count until I had a husband beside me. I walked in quietly. He didn't look up right away. When he did, there was no fire left, just fatigue wrapped in pride. "I came to return something," I said, placing the envelope in front of him. He frowned, opening it. Inside was the legal transfer, signed back over to the family. But under it, in my handwriting, a note. "You once said control was love. I'm proving it's not. Keep the company. I'll keep my peace." He stared at it for a long time, throat working, eyes damp. "Why?" he finally whispered. "Because I don't need revenge," I said softly. "I just needed you to see me." For a moment, we sat in silence. No violin, no audience, just air and truth. Mom came in, eyes red. She looked between us, then at the papers, then back at me. "Rowan," she whispered, "what now?" I smiled gently. "Now? I start my own firm. And maybe, someday, we have dinner again. But only when everyone brings their own chair." As I turned to leave, Dad's voice cracked behind me. "You really are your mother's daughter." I paused in the doorway. "No, Dad," I said, smiling faintly. "I'm finally my own." Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, scattering across the wet pavement like shards of gold. The air felt lighter, like a home I'd been building inside myself for years.